What should I name my business coaching practice? BJ O'Neill here with Business Coach Mastery. That's what we're going to discuss. What should I name my coaching practice in this video training? Now, I don't even know if we have a training about this yet. We actually do get this question fairly often. And here's what I see happening all the time is that a lot of guys who, they don't move the needle in terms of time. They get stuck on this idea of, I really don't know what I should name. Totally normal if that's you. If you're in the beginning stages of building get my words out, a coaching practice, and you're stuck, that is normal. So I hope prayerfully you'll get some value out of what I'm going to share with you, because it's some things that you definitely want to consider as you think about the naming of your business, because it is important. However, hear me clear, it will not be the reason that you're successful or not, okay? So there's essentially two different ways to look at this. You've got what I'm going to use the term normal name, and then you've got potentially a name that centers around a brand, all right? Now, if you have an idea for a brand, awesome, but you may not have an idea for a brand, and I'll explain what that means in just a moment. And there's nothing wrong with that either. And if you're in the camp where you really don't have a brand identity per se, do not let that be a stumbling block for moving forward. You may actually end up finding that brand down the journey. That's exactly what happened to us with Business Coach Mastery. We didn't start out with the name of Business Coach Mastery. The idea really came around the word to master something, just on some things that I've been praying about, thinking about, reading about, and realizing that, if you want to have true success, you can't just dabble in things, right? You want to apply the art of mastery, which is where Business Coach Mastery came from. However, we didn't start that way in the beginning. And so don't sweat it. But there's a few things you want to understand. As you understand your identity, who you are, what you want to represent, here's some things that you want to think through. Number one, you certainly want to define your audience, and certainly your coaching niche. Well, we already know part of that, right? It's business coaching. It's not life coaching. It's not marriage coaching. Even if you offer those things, in this case, we're talking about business coaching. So there's one definition. You may decide that not only do I want to focus on business coaching, but I want to actually niche in a specific area of industry. For instance, we have coaches who focus in like the HVAC world or the automotive world. And the reason why they do that is that because they came from those worlds. Well, if you don't have that, no worries. Then you're not going to niche down further. But if you do, something you absolutely want to consider. And then you need to think through and think about, so when it comes to, my uniqueness, what is it that I can provide in a unique way? And maybe you don't know that right now. If you don't worry about it. You may find your way through that over a 6-month period, a year period, or whatever, but you do at least want to consider it, okay? And really start talking about and thinking about how all that may come together in creating either a brand or a normal name. Normal name meaning that if I really don't have a brand in terms of like a business coach mastery, like a word that means something in my world, there's nothing wrong with if I were to call it, O'Neill Consulting or O'Neill Coaching or whatever. Nothing wrong with that at all. In that case, if you go slightly more generic, if you will, you still definitely want to have a tagline that does communicate exactly what it is that you do. That part is going to be important, which we're going to talk about, okay? Next, when it comes to naming considerations, okay, here's some rules of thumb. Clarity and simplicity are your friend, period. In other words, when you confuse, you lose. You probably have heard that term before. So if you have an overly unique name, this is the hard part sometimes. You want to be unique, but if you're so unique that you have to overly explain the whole thing, that's where you want to be cautious about the process when it's all said and done. So you want to be clear, you want to be simple, and you want it to have, be memorable if you can make that happen. And I can't stress enough that if you are considering, complication over non-complication, the only way to know that is to really think it through, invite some people into the process to get some feedback. Just because you love it, that doesn't necessarily mean that your market is going to love it. And that's why you want to make sure that it connects. Does it resonate, right? I mean, again, when you're saying it, does it roll off the tongue? Does it make sense? Is it fluid? when it's all said and done? Is there a way to be able to have brand extension long term? You don't know that you're going to do that or not, but it's just things you want to kind of walk through and consider. Like we're extending here some additional brands that kind of target some different types of industry sectors, and they will stay consistent with the term business coach mastery. We kind of did that by design. Remember, we didn't start that way. We learned along the journey. Okay. So there's some things that you just, well, at least you want to process in the beginning to make sure that you're thinking through. It's like, hey, that's not going to apply for me right now, but I'm glad that I know that so that I may adjust or somewhat down the road once I really get some experience, some exposure. I really start to understand things at a deeper level, because those things have an opportunity to influence. Okay. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in a moment about, drilling down further into expanding a brand under a term that has way more meat to it. Just a moment. Here's some things though you do want to make sure you avoid. Okay. Overused terms and cliches. Okay. Things that everybody uses, you want to be very cautious of. Like personally, for me, in most cases, I would avoid the word, generically the word coach. I'm a fan of strategy personally, or strategies, just because not that many, at least for now, not that many people use that. Great way to go in a lot of cases. Okay. Just because you think it's understandable and cute doesn't mean everybody else will. So you can't just go and make a decision based upon what you think and how you feel. That's again why you want to make sure you bring some other people into the process to get their thoughts. You also don't want a name that's too long, for a number of reasons. When you create a logo and a business card, and I will tell you a little trick. If you end up with a long name, maybe you already started, man, your name is long. Abbreviating your name in a logo could be a way to mitigate if you have a super long name and go from there. If it is long, Business Coach Mastery, for instance, our is not like too long, but it's long-ish. So when we create logos, we typically do a square, and the business and the coach part is smaller and mastery is a little bit bigger. A little trick there to be able to get it all into one spot. Okay. You do want to make sure that you do some research to find out, does anybody else have this name, especially in my area? Even if it's not trademarked. Okay. Even if they don't have a URL, you want to make sure, and you're going to have similarities, and just like a lot of businesses, there are similarities in markets and whatnot. So it doesn't mean that you have to be completely, nobody can have the same or even close. But if they are in your market and they're certainly in the exact space that you're in, something that you need to absolutely consider when it's all said and done. Okay. So as you get to the brainstorming, so we're taking these things into consideration. We're thinking through some different things, and we want to begin to brainstorm and just refine the process. Okay. So here's a few techniques and even tools to be able to get some name ideas going. And this is the beautiful part. We didn't have this that long ago. You probably don't know what I'm about to say, but that is the use of AI and ChatGPT or a number of the different tools that are out there. And here's what you do. Here's what I'm about to share with you. I do believe will give you significant value and help you out in a very big way. All right. Number one, you want to write down what your core values are for yourself as a coach. Like, what are the things that your integrity, right? Freedom, honesty, all the different things that you believe that, you want to communicate and really build, in the relationships that you're building, that this is what you want to be known for. You want to write those down. Okay. And here's what you want to do. You're going to want to write a paragraph. We call them prompts. You're going to want to write a paragraph in chat because you are looking for ideas. You're not looking necessarily for the name. Right now, you just need to kind of work through some ideas. So here's what I wrote this down. Here's what I think as an example of a prompt to just start to walk through this. I want to add value, build relationships, and show business owners how I can strategically help them accelerate their profits and revenues with simplicity. Give me 10 core values that match my purpose. Like that's an example. All right. So what's going to happen is that chat's going to now give you these 10 ideas. You're going to start to look at those and go, okay, I like that one. I like that one. I like that one. Then you want to turn that and say, these are my core values as a coach. This is what I want clients to feel. This is what I want them to understand. This is how they're going to view me as their guide and their strategist. Give me 20 business coaching name ideas based upon my passion, my purpose, and these core values. Like that's a long prompt, and that's what you want. Now this is about AI, but it's about using that tool in this way. The reason why you want 20 is that you want to see a lot of different number of things, the way it's going to help kind of put some things together. And if you can even customize what I just said even further, even better. All right. Then it's going to spit out 20 different names. All right. Then you take the ones that you like, you're going to write them down, bring them over on a different notepad, and you pray about it, think about it, process it through. And let's say that you like 8 of them, but you still aren't really sold on any one of those 8, but you do like them, the way they say whatever, but you just can't figure out how to put it together to make it work. Then you go to chat and say, hey, and you kind of treat chat a little bit like a friend. It's like, hey, all right, I like these 8 ideas, but I'm still not feeling it. How can we combine some of these words and that words or whatever and figure out, give me 10 more ideas from these? And remember, I also want to include the name X, Y, and Z, or, strategist. That's just another way to customize the thing. So this is just helping you kind of filter. And through this process, you'll either do one of 2 things. It likely can spit out a name that you like, or it's going to spit out something close where you're going to polish it off and finish it when it's all said and done. Does that make sense? The other part of this is that when you're getting close, I like this, I like this, I like this. Now it's time to do a little more homework and go to either GoDaddy or any other name register and see what's available. Okay. Now, caution. Sure, it'd be great if the URL that you want matches exactly your name. That's awesome. The likelihood in these days is pretty tough. All right. .com still wins the ball game, by the way, even though you can get .info, .coach, all that. You can do that. There's a lot of different discrepancies about, does it hurt SEO? Does it help SEO? I don't really know. I'm just telling you, if you can get a .com, awesome. That if you can't and you want to go with, .coach or .expert, there's a number of ways to do that. I'm not an expert in the SEO world. You might could talk to somebody if it's going to really affect anything or not. I probably would argue it won't, but still most people are going to use a .com anyways. So all that to say is that you're going to go on there, you're going to see what's available. That may eliminate one of the ones that you like because there's just nothing close at all to making it work. Because what you can't do, or I would argue you should not do, is to make it, you have a name over here, the actual name of the company, the business, your practice. But now your URL, hyphens and dots, you don't want to do that. You want to make it clean as much as you possibly can. And you certainly don't want that URL super long. But this is the caution part, is that, think about it. When is the last time that you yourself actually typed in a URL? Right? The 12th of never, right? No one does that anymore. We just click on links, or even more today, we scan a QR code and it takes us where we want to go. So does the URL matter? Of course it matters, but not like it used to, in the terms of no one's actually going to be typing it, right? They're just going to end up going to a link that might, even if I had a business card today, I'm putting a QR code on the business card because no one's just going to take the opportunity and time to just type out a URL. I mean, here and there maybe, but they're going to get that link from somewhere else. So you may have to combine some words. Like I know a lot of guys who have used the word win, W-I-N, with, and then your coaching name. All right. That's one of the ways you can just kind of play with some wordsmithing, as long as it doesn't get mega confusing, mega long, look awkward or whatever. You do want to make sure that you're looking those things through. The other thing, the reason why you also want to make sure you're Googling these names as well, to make sure that nobody has it, certainly that they don't have it trademarked. That's an important piece to learn as well. And especially if you're including your name and stuff like that, the likelihood's pretty low. but you do want to do some research just to make sure that you're doing your due diligence in going from there. Lastly, many will say, well, I already have an LLC. Do I have to have a separate LLC for my name? No, you can couch it underneath that. Your CPA or an attorney can help you with that specifically. But you don't have to go out. You can get multiple LLCs, and there are tax strategies around that. But in terms of just like the naming part, no, you don't have to do it that way if you don't so choose to do. Okay. Prayerfully, this is making sense to you. Last part of it. And then you want to have what we call brand colors. All right. You need to decide what you like. Let's say that you really loved blue or green or red or whatever. You go to Google and you're going to look for a color wheel, and you're going to look for colors that complement one another. You don't want to use colors just because you like them. You need to use colors that make sense to science. In other words, the way that they actually go together. You don't want to get contrasting colors that make no sense. Your website will look terrible if you do that, okay? So prayerfully, this is making sense to you to help you kind of walk it through. It is a process sometimes. Sometimes you know what it really is. So brand or not brand. This is where I want to leave it with you. Sometimes we absolutely have the idea, like I do, around the word mastery, and make an entire brand out of that. If that is you, if you're going to do that, then you have to be willing to go to the extra steps of building out all those other brand pieces. In other words, a tagline, even some tchotchke stuff, right? You need to make sure that you extend the whole thing, because otherwise it may not make sense depending upon what it is, especially if you're running with something that's really, really clever that does require explanation. Be cautious of that in that explanation, it's easy to do, that you have a process to do it, and otherwise you risk someone being confused. And when you confuse, you lose. Hope this has made sense to you. Lastly, look, if you just don't really know, choose something simple and get started. Get out there, get moving, get started, and go help someone today. That's what matters more than anything. All right. Until next time, take care.